Hey there, SMITE fans, and welcome in to the final day of Week 4 of the SPL. Aggro and Goremizer here to take you into our first set of the day, which is going to be eUnited up against Spacestation. And Goremizer, this is going to be a pretty spicy matchup, I think, because eUnited with Genetics there, still trying to gel and see how he's going to fit in. And against a Spacestation team that may not have been able to deliver upon the expectations that we had for them preseason.
And this is going to maybe test their mettle a little bit more. Like Friday, they came out, Spacestation specifically, and just kind of knocked it out of the park. Today, honestly, a lot of people, if you look at the fan voting, kind of expecting something similar. So this is a chance for eUnited to kind of showcase what Genetics is going to be able to bring into the fold. But with the way Spacestation has been kind of, well, at least rostered up and what people expect out of them, I expect to see them shift a little higher in the standings here.
And look, Spacestation is by no means looking terrible. They're sitting in 4th place right now. They're sitting at 3-2. It's not a bad spot to be in. But should eUnited win this game, that would knot both teams at 3-3. We also have Pittsburgh Knights playing later on today, so they have a chance to go to 3-3 if they are able to defeat Sanguine. Now, if Sanguine wins, they would then sit alone on top of the standings at 5-1. So it's going to be a fun day, man. I mean, you thought that yesterday's games were going to be a little bit more competitive. I know I did. They were a little bit more stumpy than I expected. So hopefully today we get some closer matchups.
And I'm, again, excited to see specifically how eUnited's going to look. It's not often you get to see a huge turnaround from 1 day to 2 days later, but this is one of those moments to really kind of pick it up. I mean, you're bringing in a new support player, had a pretty decent game one, but didn't quite hold up to I guess, Sanguine's expectations on Friday. So I'm wondering what they've been able to change and kind of work on, throughout Saturday, watching those VOD backs, trying to figure themselves out to come now into this set, mainly because I feel like even though, the standings definitely say Sanguine, like as you pointed out, since they could become number 1 today, are maybe the more difficult team, I don't think SSG is going to take it easy on you. They're not going to give you an easy time. So it's what you can do against SSG here, and today I think that will maybe solidify what people are thinking going into the next week.
Absolutely. I think it's a good way to put it. And for me, the big thing that I'm going to be looking for is Genetics and how well he can play any god not named Horus. Because game 1 against Sanguine, they get the Horus. He uses to the skies perfectly a million different times, and it really gets them the victory through that Horus play. Games 2 and 3, Horus is banned, and Genetics becomes way less effective. I don't think, we'll get into picks and bans a little bit, but that is going to be my number one thing is what is Genetics playing, and is there any world where he gets Horus against SSG? I don't think so. I think Spacestation is going to be banning it.
I mean, yeah, especially because Horus has just skyrocketed and how worth he is, right? I mean, he was already starting to rise up. Teams like Sanguine were picking him and making him look really, really solid across the league. And then all of a sudden, he gets a buff to his ult. Yeah, there's almost no reason to pick him. The protection shred on him, the stun that he brings, the healing that he brings. Just as a Guardian, he is so top tier. If he gets lets through, it baffles me to kind of see it. Unless SSG are like, hey, wait, let's give it to iRaffer, in which case it would make sense. But either of these teams, if he's not taken out in the top 6, it'll be surprising.
Absolutely. And as for Spacestation's side of things, we've talked a lot about Genetics. On the other side, they've had their struggles when it comes to the duo lane in the left side of that map. I think that Vote and iRaffer still have yet to find that really, really clean synergy. But Cherryo's had some really good games, I think. I mean, he looked revitalized against Sobek, got this Thor pick, and was really, really potent on it in both games of that set. Nika and Dardez, for me, have really been the anchors for this team, trying to hold them in place. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, and I'm interested to see, because like you said earlier, SSG, I mean, they're 3-2, but they're not a bad team. I mean, we saw what they were able to do last year, even though they've had maybe just a little bit of a shift coming into this year, specifically from the Hunter. The duo synergy is something that hasn't been there as much as you would expect. Of course, when you have all these teams, especially the ones that have made changes coming into this year, Rival comes to my mind as well. It's taken them these 4 weeks to kind of get adjusted and acclimated back to Pro League play, especially after a long offseason. SSG looked like monsters on Friday. If they look like monsters today, then they might just be back.
Could be the case. I'm looking forward to this interview with Dardez because I did an interview with Vote earlier on in the week, and I'm wondering if Dardez is going to talk about who's eating his donuts or if he even has any. Let's throw it to that right now.
I am here with Dardez, mid laner for Spacestation Gaming. And Dardez, first thing I want to talk to you about is just how is the team mentality doing at the start of this split? Because I think a lot of people had you all as their first seed coming in, and there have been a couple of stumbles there for you all. What do you attribute it to, and where's the team's heads at right now?
I think we're feeling okay. We're not playing our best for sure. Like, we're just struggling a bit. I don't know why, but maybe it's because we're playing online, I guess, maybe. And I think we're playing okay. Scrims have been doing well this week, so I think we should be fine.
Well, I agree. You're definitely playing well. Maybe not quite up to what we expected from you all, but definitely still playing well. Talk to you about eUnited. That's who you all are going to be playing up against here next. They just swapped in a new support, got rid of Ionic. Now they're going to be playing with Genetics. Do you feel like that changes the team a lot? Did you feel like you saw something different from them when they just got through playing the other day, or are you all going to go in business as usual?
I think he definitely changes the team. I think Ionis was like a basic support, I'd say. He was a generic support. He would just peel for his carries, and yeah. And I think Genetics is more like a aggressive support. He's gonna look for object. I think he's more a shot caller than Ionic, but I'm not sure. But I mean, I know Genetics personally, so
sure.
I think he's gonna fit more in this team, and he's gonna get more plays, I think.
Yeah, I doubt we'll be letting you guys see him play a whole lot of Horus after what we saw that last day. I imagine that'll be getting taken away. Well, what about, with your team sort of identity here at this point? Because before, it felt like you all were this team that played really well as a unit, and iRaffer was making a lot of plays for you all towards the end of last year. Was that by design? Were you all trying to kind of look to play through him, or was that just kind of how it went towards the end of last year, and you all are looking for something different here now?
I think we're gonna play the same way. I think we're just I'm not playing Hunter's Mid right now, but maybe I'll bring it back. You never know. But
yeah, Hurry looked pretty good on the Ullr. Maybe you should drop it too.
Yeah, I mean, I might bring back the Lion Mid. You never know.
That's right. Well, hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of that from you all, Dardez. Appreciate you all taking some time to talk to us, and good luck in your matchup against eUnited.
Thank you.
All business there for Dardez. Thanks for taking the time to him. And I'm excited to see if he is going to pull out that Lion Mid again, Gormizer, because that on her last year changed the entire course of picks and bans for a lot of teams. It put on her on the map.
And it's something that is so immeasurable when you look at that. I mean, we've seen a lot of specifically this year that I kind of skyrocketed in. Raijin in my mind has kind of been one of those where a couple of people played it. It looked really good. Horus might be another one of those. Again, just as a warrior support coming through. Sanguine made it look really good. Other teams started picking it up. If you can make something so pivotal and you're willing to try something out, much like an on her last year, then I think you are going to be able to open the door to a whole new realm of SBL.
Well, let's see what they have in store for us, Gormizer. Picks and bans ready for our first set of the day. eUnited up against the Renegades. And eUnited in that first pick position immediately. Again, I'm just thinking about if Genetics is going to get that Horus and how that's going to end up mattering. I think Finch brought up a good point that Hurriwind's been looking pretty good on that Ullr in the mid lane. Could be something we see Renegades prioritize here. But this has been a pretty steady ban up against this team. Apologies, by the way. That should be Spacestation actually there. Of course, that's who eUnited's playing against. But it should be Spacestation. And against Spacestation, Aphrodite has been a near permaban since Dardez really showed how good he is on that goddess.
Yeah, and I think that's the best part of it, I guess is the better way to word it. She brings so much to the team. But specifically, you look at a lot of moments in this game kind of being centered around when beads are up and beads are down. Afro, in my mind, ruins timers in people's heads because, okay, well, now you have to deal with the ult. That's going to affect two people, more than likely, like the jungler or maybe the support, depending on the 3v3 in mid. It's guaranteed safety for her, plus the healing that she's going to bring out. She's only been played in 4 games so far, and she's won 2, lost 2, but I think her performance in each of those is going to be big enough that, as you can see, it's warranting a ban. Plus, I mean, it forces so much weird itemization out of you. Now everyone's got to focus on anti-heal. We've got to get a cursed Ankh, at least 1, maybe 2, depending on how we're feeling about it. Like, having a healer in the game changes just the pace of it, similar to what we've seen out of Hell from, like, Renegades.
it's going to be difficult, so just take it out of the board. I completely agree with what eUnited are doing here. In Space Station, they've already focused genetics with one ban, and that's the Emoja, but they're going to actually lean towards Scream with this Thor ban, and I'm a little bit surprised because this is the type of pick that Space Station seems to like to get for Cherryo. He played it twice against Obey. A little surprised to see them ban Thor themselves.
Yeah, but it's at the same time not. It's surprising to see them take it away, but he's been so present, and I think that's kind of the big issue. Is just, do we want to risk it right now? And specifically when it comes down to eUnited, it's playing with fire if you let them have anything they're going to be comfortable with.
I'm so very surprised to not see a Horus ban here, Gore Miser, and I'd be shocked if eUnited doesn't pick it first overall right here. I mean, Space Station has to be coming in with a plan in order to shut down this Horus if they're leaving it open. I don't think that you can expect eUnited to pass on it here. I mean, maybe Space Station can come in with some sort of plan, and consider me floored. Ullr is the first pick here for eUnited. That's surprising.
Hey, Ullr's done some pretty good things, right? I mean, he can play at a different level, and specifically Snoopy being able to carry it around. It always looks good when he takes it into the duo lane. Unless they want to play some mid-matches, give it to Hurriwind. Either one of them is going to make it look solid. They can play aggressive on him. They can get a lot of kills, as we have seen in the past, sometimes even undying. But to put that over the Horus, over even Sobek, who we've seen on the rise, is a little eyebrow-raising overall. Now this Ullr has maybe even more pressure to perform in this game and to look better because of it, no matter who ends up taking control of it in eUnited.
Yeah, no surprise to see Sobek Horus. I mean, that front line is now locked in for Space Station, and it's incredibly potent. Single target focused. You're not going to get a whole lot of AoE CC with these two supports. Of course, Horus the Warrior, but basically a support. But man, that single target CC setup is going to be very, very potent. And I would expect this Ullr to be heading to Hurriwind for now, because the last few times we've seen this pick for eUnited, it's been going towards that mid lane. Snoopy played it once at the very beginning of the year and did not look particularly strong on it. As a tier pick comes through for eUnited, Variety has really been leaning towards a lot more Guardians and Mages. I mean, the Baron Somdi has been a big pick for him. The tier this early on, maybe he feels like that's a good matchup for him up against the Sobek.
And you know Awesome Jake has broken my brain when I first thought, oh man, that's going to be weird. I didn't think anyone other than Renegades would be trying to put that in the duo lane. But like you said, more than likely maybe dealing with the Sobek over there. And honestly, I think it's going to help overall just matching in terms of sustain and control that it's going to come through. Another god that's very good at kind of single picks. If you get a really solid Blink and a really good Fearless, maybe you're knocking up 2 to 3 people, but most teams aren't that grouped up. But he can do a lot in the backline. And, you know, you're looking at Sobek maybe setting up kills for somebody else with a good pluck. Tyr can just go into the backline and decide you're not going to be in this team fight for a little while, and then his team can clean up everybody else, kind of forcing it to be a 4v4 and maybe giving them favorable grounds if he gets rid of, like, the mid laner or a Cupid.
I love this Cupid pick, though, Gore. You don't usually see Cupid 3rd overall. It's usually like a 9th or 10th pick to try and counter an entire draft. But Fields of Love is so good against just these first 3 picks. Ullr, Tyr, Terra all hate playing against Cupid. I wonder if this is going to go mid for Dardez. I think that there is a world where they could put it there, but I would expect this to be going to vote in that long lane. It feels a little bit risky every time you lock in that Cupid, but I think it's phenomenal here.
And it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it in the duo lane if it is there with a Horus, because that's a lot of sustain in a duo lane, and there's a lot of control in there as well. You've either got stuns or slows, the ability to chase people down and control them and lock them down across Horus and Cupid's ult. Like, there's just so much that can, I guess, determine the way a duo lane flows that it's kind of scary to think about, but if eUnited can temper themselves well, especially with something like a Terra, they shouldn't be too worried about it all.
Surprised to not see a Raijin ban, but instead a bunch of cripples off the board in Discordia and Poseidon. eUnited doesn't want to get hit by cripples in 2 different facets, so they ban away a couple mid laners that have them. And it's the set pickup here, likely for Cherryo, though we saw Cyclone Spin play it in the ADC role the other day for Radiance. Do you like the set against what you're seeing from eUnited? Because it's not a pick we see a whole lot of.
Right now, there's not I don't think there's a lot of easy targets for this set just yet. Maybe the Ullr, it could be decent at keeping that in track if it does go to Hurriwind much more like we think it will. But you're still expecting them to lock in at least 2 more squishies, right? They need their jungler, unless this is going to be a tier jungle, and we're going back, what, 3, 4, 5, 6 years at this point, if not more. And they still need something to kind of pick up over there in the duo lane. So you've got a couple of easy targets, although I don't know how well you'll chase down Morrigan. You can lock down her damage, but admittedly, now you've just given her something that's a huge asset on their side. She can become set, and Cupid is going to be under duress.
I love this Morrigan pick, though, for United. I don't know if it's going to be there for Hurriwind in the mid lane or this is going to be the Morrigan ADC, but you look across at all these great transformation options that you have in this game. Terra might be the best Morrigan transformation in the game. Thanatos is really, really good. Set is a very good transformation that you can all in with. I mean, you could even transform into the Horus and use that to disguise, a lot like United did on Friday. I kind of like what United's put together. It's just a matter of how well this Cupid is going to be able to lock down all this mobility on the United's side.
Well, it's like the big overall thing for eUnited here is, you know, Ullr's going to more than likely look really good, but all of this is execution based, right? It's a great composition, but if you slip up even once in a team fight, then all of a sudden it kind of crumbles out from underneath you. SSG will have a lot of openings to maybe pick that apart, but if eUnited can play this as close to perfect as possible, then SSG are going to have a very, very difficult time. Wow. And I actually really like this. This is someone we got to see a lot, last year, I guess, that came through. Yep. And Isis just kind of disappeared. Granted, she got some nerfs that were well-deserved, but now being able to kind of come into the flow, I think it's a really great way to control, and admittedly, a lot of damage she brings as well that fits really well with SSG. There's a lot of support, a lot of sustain, a lot of team fight that SSG have. This is objective-oriented, the game for them.
Absolutely. Tons of CC on Spacestation side. We'll see if eUnited is able to plow through it. Game 1 starting right now.
Thanks, Aggro and Gore. It's Finch and Mifflin on the call as they move into eUnited up against SSG. And Miff, look at this draft from eUnited. This feels aggressive. I mean, maybe we could talk about that, but I also want to talk about them passing on the Horus when it was open as well, taking that Ullr for Snoopy instead. There's a lot, I think, to digest about the way that eUnited went about this picks and bans.
There is. Giving up the Horus, I mean, it floored Aggro, it floored me as well. I think all we've seen from Genetics is his Horus. That's really the only time he's looked absolutely comfortable. So giving it up is a little bit of a question mark going forward, especially giving it up to the enemy team instead of just electing to ban it out if you knew you didn't want it. That is very curious. My eyes are on this Isis. Picking it up so late into the comp means that there's tons of CC on eUnited that's going to be able to just stop her wing gust from happening. If Scream looks for the gank, he could just silence it out. Snoopy could very easily stun it if she rotates over to the long lane. That last pick Isis is a huge question mark for me. It means that she's going to be looking for pressure, and she's going to have to find it in the early game, because once it gets to late, that's where Hurriwind's going to see, or not Hurriwind, Dardez rather, is going to be looking for the struggle.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of dive potential, right? Variety, Scream, even potentially Hurriwind, depending on who he transforms into. They should all have a relatively easy time getting to this Isis, and I got to imagine that's part of the calculus for Space Station. They feel a little bit more like they want to group up and fight around these big circle ultimates from their backline carries, and then you've got tons in the way of disruption and peel with Nika and iRaffer, right? And Cherryo can kind of use that time to hopefully go do some diving of his own. So I get the concern, but I feel like if Space Station get to the point of the game that they're planning on getting to, then it might not be that big of a deal. It really depends on if eUnited's aggressive comp can kind of stop them from getting there.
And they have aggression in spades. Scream on Thanatos is going to be looking to get involved from minute 1. Snoopy, as long as he doesn't get hit by this Horus CC, they should be favored in the long lane for pressure. Cupid and Horus, though, that's a scary lane. Anytime any sort of CC comes out, Heart Bomb's going to be immediately following it up. That's a ton of damage, almost immediately putting someone in the dirt. And the stun coming through on the tail end means that a dash can come out from Cupid, chase down just about anything that happens.
Scream considering an early gank, but there was wards there defensively that helped him out. But now Cherryo is in trouble. He elected for Aegis as his first relic. It buys him some time, but everyone in eUnited were able to rotate to the jungle, catch Cherryo out, and punish this set early. And Myth, this is the second time now that we've seen Set, and he has looked like he's struggling in both of those games.
He's especially not looking good there. I mean, immediately just caught out in the jungle, gets ganked at his own red buff. It's a little bit unfortunate, the positioning. Surprising that Hurriwind was able to rotate into that fight before Dardez was, especially considering where it happened on the map. Getting caught out, losing your Aegis in the early. He doesn't have Blink until level 12, which means he's going to be lacking in mobility in terms of ganks. Now he's going to be a sitting duck in his own jungle. If they have continued aggression onto the set, he's going to have a really hard time just hitting level 5.
And it's hard to tell from there where Dardez was, but you're right, Hurriwind was easily able to rotate up the aggressive way and cut him off. And that's the thing that I think might be a bit surprising, right? One of the things you do pick Isis for is that her clear is excellent in the early game, and typically you shouldn't be getting out-rotated in spots like that, but perhaps Dardez is just back. Honestly, I hadn't seen where he was exactly on the map before that happened, but it allows Hurriwind to get there first and find that last bit of damage they needed for first blood to go the way of United. And that's step 1 myth, but they're going to need more of that same thing, I think, if they're going to want to eventually get over this scary team fight from SSG.
It is step 1, but it's the step 1 of the journey that they chose with this early game comp. Getting the jungler set behind on SSG is rough. It looks like SSG really is slating their game towards that mid lane or mid game point. They want to get those team fights rolling out. They really need to leverage this Cupid ult in the team fight. Right now, SSG's entire strategy should be, okay, let's buckle down, let's farm up, let's get to that point, and then we can start using this Isis to confirm objectives very easily. We can start rotating around the map using this high mobility that Set has just within his kit. But that early aggression, finding the first blood by United is bad, but it's doubly bad because it falls onto Cherryo. It's going to set him behind a fair bit. And now what was going to be a quick start, almost even a start between aggression between Thanatos and Set, now he's going to be set behind so far that Scream should have free reign of the map. It's really on Cherryo now to just look for counter ganks.
Speaking of free reign, here Scream is again getting aggressive on the Chaos side of the map. He has Genetics with him too, as a sort of bodyguard, but Cherryo and iRaffer could potentially have a pinch here planned. They stun him out. Scream takes about over half his health, but makes it up to the sky with that hovering death. Should be able to lower down. Looks like there is some additional damage coming, but Scream heals it up just fine, gets to the Alpha Harpy, and he is A-okay, making it out.
That's what you need to do. I mean, Cherryo does find the counter gank. He forces out the ultimate. Now Scream's going to have to wait a little bit until he can look to get aggressive again. He does maintain his blink, so the gank potential is still very high in the mid lane. If Isis moves up just far enough, a silence is going to stop Wind Gust. The Sight's going to stop her heartbeat. There's a lot that they could look for there.
Big ultimate, though, from the Fields of Love. Snoopy takes over half his HP right from the get-go. No stun of the Heart Bomb, so Genetics becomes the target instead. Hail of Arrows is there to try and help, but this is the pressure that SSG can have in lane with their ultimates. And remember, as good as Ullr is in the early game, level 5 is actually kind of a scary time for him because he doesn't get that same big power spike that his opposition does. Cupid gets the Fields of Love. Snoopy gets one more point in abilities he already had, right? So they use that moment, don't quite get the kills, but they do get some pressure.
Worth pointing out that Snoopy already has that Transcendence built. He's going to get those stacks online a lot more quickly than Vote is, especially since he's going to have to finish up those boots before he looks to finish Trans. So that 20% CDR power spike is going to be coming a lot more quickly for Snoopy, and he's going to act as a pseudo-mage.
Scream is here as well. iRaffer is the one that is in a whole world of trouble. Gets hit by the axe, still though has the ability to retreat, but Genetics hits the max range route. That locks him down, and a really nice kill from United there and left off another Scream gank. He has been active on this left side of the map.
That's what you're going to do. You have Cupid over there. It's a low mobility hunter. It's going to take a lot of peel to make sure he gets out of these situations safely, which means it opens up Horus to get some of the aggression shifted onto him. Scream's going to go ahead and try and put Snoopy ahead. If Snoopy does pull a lead, he's going to have the unbridled aggression that comes with Ullr, which is characteristic of Cupid as well. You'd expect him to do well in lane, but it hasn't been going that way.
Scream had ulted aggressively, but just comes back towards the purple buff. So this is aggression from Spacestation Gaming. Cherryo gets locked down one. He able to find Genetics as well for a double kill. iRaffer blinked in alongside Cherryo, and United finally bite off a bit more than they can chew there. Mifflin trying to go for that purple buff invade. That's the response the Spacestation are going to need to make here in the early.
That was some of the most cognizant play I've ever seen come out of a sport. iRaffer was inside his tier 2 tower. He had to only be reacting to the sound effects of Scream's ultimate and immediately starts channeling his own to look for the counter landing. The second Thanatos lands, boom, you got your entire team, SSG that is, dunking onto him. I mean, that's a clean defense around the purple. I doubt we see another invade attempt on it, at least in the near future.
I mean, I don't know, man. They kind of got to go to that point for pressure. I know they kind of got stuffed that time, but you can't just stop dunking just because you got blocked one time. They have to try and get up to an early start. So would you suggest then that they just don't look at purple and look at a different buff? Or would you want to see that aggression stop altogether?
I would like to see them maybe move the aggression over towards blue buff. Sobek's going to have a very hard time defending, especially in the early game. He's not going to bring that much in terms of a team fight. And if you're eUnited, the only people you have to be worried about are the jungler and the mid laner rotating to defend that. And Thanatos is a fantastic matchup in a both.
What about aggression instead onto iRaffer? They can't quite find the stun. iRaffer really just walks out of there. I think a little bit of that peel came from Dardez there as well to make sure the Horus could escape. So good work from the Isis. And yeah, pressuring the Sobek might be an idea, right? I mean, I don't know if you're going to be able to kill him. Sobek is super safe, but can he defend his own buffs, right? You kind of bully him out, then you take his stuff. It's not so much about getting the kills on him as you said, as maybe trying to pressure that blue buff down.
Yeah, it's more of a lunch money mentality. I'm not going into the bully the kid. I just want the money. Take that blue buff, get rid of his farm. He gets the late game a little bit later, and that's exactly what you draft Sobek for, is that rotation around level 15, 16. He starts to have a huge impact on these team fights. If you can slow that down, that's huge ups, and putting your tier ahead means that he's going to have a way easier time rotating out, bullying out this Isis, bullying out anyone on the map, truly. With his Blink Fearless, he's already got it online. Instead of going for teleport, he likes to get that aggressive pickup. And the Relic Dagger means that it's going to be up constant. I imagine we see some very early rotations out of tier.
Snoopy considered looking for an axe there, couldn't find it. Vote still has his beads, though, so even if he did, Vote would have likely been relatively safe, though not happy getting rid of that relic. I don't know, man. I feel like I want to talk about how impressed I've been with Hurriwind lately, and not just here in Season 7, but even in Season 6. I feel like this guy doesn't quite get enough credit for constantly being able to make plays with his team. He's on this Morrigan, successfully out-farming Dardez on the Isis, who's largely considered someone who has pressure in lane really well, and he has been rotating actively. He didn't switch off this Ullr to sit on his hands. He's playing the Morrigan and playing just as aggressive, if not more so.
And that's interesting. It's really the positioning. Dardez is showing a lot more respect in that lane. Normally, you would be afforded unbridled aggression, especially considering you have this set in the jungle that he could play up on the tower line with Wing Gust, but instead it's always Hurriwind controlling the center of the map, always getting the head start on these rotations. It might be due to the fact that Set did get off to a rough start, so he just has to be worried about this Thanatos waiting in the wings, Dardez that is, but Hurriwind's making perfect use of that added pressure on the map to just continually bully out, find that neutral objective farm, pulling slight XP leads off these mid camps. It's going to be rough going forward. You don't draft Isis to win or lose the early game. You don't draft anyone to lose the early game, but Isis especially really needs to get off to a good start.
You're right. I mean, we see that kind of stuff all the time, but we mean it in that regard as specifically she's supposed to be good in the early. Scream showing some presence on the left-hand side. Vote heading back towards his purple buff. He's hiding in that alcove to try and not give away any information until his backup arrives in the form of iRaffer and Dardez. Now we can grab the purple buff comfortably, and Snoopy and Scream can't really step in. But look again where Hurriwind was on the map. Him and Genetics roaming around this side of the map. I don't think that Dardez can feel safe moving around his own jungle at all, because Hurriwind is always lurking with Genetics or Scream nearby there to back him up. And
Hurriwind elected to go for the Doom Orb in the early, which means he's finding his burst damage a little bit more quickly than you would from going to a stack item. Yeah, it's a fantastic pickup. Now she's already reaching that point where she's no longer just a standard mage. She's got assassin burst potential. If she stealths and finds Dardez slipping in the jungle, that should be a very easy solo kill that could transform into the Thanatos after the stun combo, immediately find additional damage, chase down with the ultimate. Hurriwind is a huge threat at this point, and SSG hasn't allocated any resources to slowing down his farm.
They really haven't. And to be fair, I don't know how much SSG are going to be looking to be that active here. I think the play they made around purple buff is about as much as we'll see a willing to commit all in to try and defend up against aggression from eUnited. I don't know if they'll be affirmatively looking to make plays. So if you're in this situation where you've kind of identified that eUnited are ahead, but you are worried about this Morrigan, what's your best play at trying to stifle some of her farm? Is it to get active and try and get aggressive, or just defend when she's stepping?
It's looking for the counter rotation. If you know that eUnited is going to continually move in towards your purple buff, and you don't feel like you have the defense potential, SSG do have it. We saw that they confirmed the buff earlier, but they could shift their focus, look for the gank onto this Morrigan, look for her rotating out of mid lane. You know what she wants, you know where she's going, which means you can find her. And I think killing Morgan, slowing down Hurriwind at this point is a little bit more valuable than your purple buff.
If you talked about bullies earlier, you weren't a bully in school, were you, my man? I was slightly, but and you were. I feel like you were a nice guy.
You know what? I want you to expand on what you just said. I didn't know that you were a bully, so that's a little bit interesting. I'm glad you asked me. No, I wasn't a bully. I belong to the no bully crew. But please go in further on how you were mean to kids.
I was a little mean, but I was never gonna take anyone's lunch money, Mifflin. But I might have made some people feel worse about themselves. I feel bad about it. I apologize to anyone who felt bullied by Finch back in middle school. I'm sorry, guys.
Anyone in particular you want to apologize to? It seems like this is coming out.
Oh, you know, it was kind of a blanket apology. No need to be too specific, I'd say, here so far. But maybe eUnited need to be a bit more of bullies here, as Space Station have locked down genetics for some decent damage, bringing him down to about 60%, but no all-in potential. There's the ultimate from Vote yet again onto Snoopy, and he got the beads out. Or rather, he might have already used them, and that's why he got aggressive, but it wasn't enough for the kill. Meanwhile, there is going to be action around gold. Scream takes to the sky with the hovering death, comes back for Cherryo, but doesn't find much. Has to retreat as he's low. Cherryo getting aggressive with the Kingslayer, but well controlled as Hurriwind has turned into the tier and gotten involved here already. iRaffer trying to find the disengage, but Variety, the actual tier, has him pinned down. The silence is there too, and Hurriwind finds another kill.
What a curious ult from iRaffer. He had time to channel it further, at least get to his red buff. Instead, he kind of does the classic up-down and immediately gets turned on. I'm surprised we don't see eUnited immediately try and shift their focus towards the Gold Fury, knowing that they had a clean two-man pick. That was a really interesting play. SSG looked like they were trying to catch out a rotation, but instead got caught themselves. Just unfortunate start. Now 3,000 gold in the lead are eUnited. They had the defensive position around gold, and now we're going to pick it up. A little bit slow. Now that all of SSG is back alive, they have to back up.
It's just a slight overstep from Space Station. They did the right thing, right? They poked down genetics initially when he stepped in. When Scream stepped in, they poked him down as well. But I think that's when they kind of got a bit ahead of themselves. Cherryo goes in aggressively, and Hurriwind had the great response to turn into the tier. We hadn't talked yet about who we thought his best transformation targets would be, but I think tier is going to be a good one for him, especially if Variety continues to have a good game like he is so far. Look at all the movement speed he's built at this point. He's zooming.
He really is zooming. That says to me, he's looking to find the back line. He's trying to find it quickly. This isn't a tanky tier. He's not looking to just sit in front of you, bully out your mages. He's looking to find the CC and act as a support. He wants to get the Fearless and have follow-up around it instead of playing as that solo agent that we see these support or these soul laners do very often, where they get super tanky, they move up, they zone out around these objectives. Instead, he's looking like he wants to get involved in his team fight instead of being just, you know, a bully. Let's move away from the bully word. I feel like we're overusing it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a personal attack on me at this point. Now, every time that you bring it up, you want to try and make me feel bad. And I won't, you know what? I won't be ashamed. That's how I choose to feel. I won't be ashamed about it. Instead, I like what Variety is doing, and I like his play, sort of the way that you mentioned. He doesn't have a ton of procs. He's working on that now. But it is a lot by way of health. And in the early game, that is still plenty of tankiness. We see Aurora do that a lot too with his builds. He likes to go with these HP-heavy builds and then move into those all-protection items later on. I think Variety is on a similar path in the solo lane. There's more posturing around gold here now. It's eUnited who are the aggressors. They're about 2,000 gold in the lead, so they can feel comfortable trying to start these fights.
I like Variety's Relic pickup in the beads. It doesn't synergize very well with a passive. He's very hard to CC on tier, but all the CC coming out from Space Station is knockups. There's the Sobek pluck, which is a knockup. There's the Horus knockup. And these are things that can't really be DR'd. So he doesn't want to get hit by the initial. He doesn't want to get plucked and displaced. So picking up that bead is going to give him a secondary level of safety.
Recognizing that even tier doesn't want to get stuck inside that CC chain. So a good pickup there from Variety. We saw Hurriwind aggressive yet again on this Morrigan, moving around in the stealth, but Space Station really aren't biting on this Gold Fury bait. United haven't really started it, but Space Station just staying close enough to where they don't feel comfortable. Now the Gold Fury is being started down to about half HP, so SSG step in. They recognize that iRaffer's used his ultimate. They force that out, and they disengage. But on the left-hand side, Cherryo taking the fight up against Hurriwind, forcing the transformation into Terra this time, which might not be what he wanted. Meanwhile, Variety has disengaged. This is the softer poke-based defense I think they were missing last time, Myth.
Another curious ult from iRaffer there. He finds the ultimate in, no one follows him up. Immediately he uses his horrific emblem, finds two people, but the fight immediately fizzles afterward. This Gold Fury now started up by SSG. The fight's on.
And Nika missed his charge prey. That's why he has to drop down into the lurking in the waters to give himself the CC immunity. Genetics then locked down the backside by iRaffer, but the burst damage isn't there from Space Station. I don't want them to overcommit too much here, though. I feel like that's what hurt them when Cherry and iRaffer ended up going in the last team fight. This time, though, they're stalling out eUnited's aggression very methodically, very patiently, sustaining back up a little bit around this Cupid, around the Horus, and then getting ready for another fight.
That's something you don't think about often. Those Cupid hearts are incredibly strong for sustain. It's a free heal. The mana return is actually greater than what it costs to use it. So SSG is completely comfortable looking for these elongated battles.
Whoa, Cherryo took a ton of pokes somewhere in all of that, so he has to disengage instantly. Nika still going in as well, but this time he doesn't have Lurking in the Waters as a get out of jail free card, so Genetics blinks in. Scream hunts down the low HP Cherryo, and that's left Nika in a bad spot as well. Variety gets the second kill for eUnited this fight, and they're not done yet. An aggressive flip in for Variety with the Lawbringer, pins iRaffer up against the wall. He does get back, but Scream is there with the dunk. What a perfect alley-oop as eUnited find 3.
Find 3 for free, just about. Scream makes it out literally by the skin of his teeth. He's going to be able to use that to stay in back in lane, heal up off the passive. This should be a free Gold Fury for eUnited, and they're already 4,000 gold in the lead just off of farming better, just off of getting the better end of these fights. It's going to be hard going. The mid tower is already down for Space Station, so if eUnited decide to pressure out the Pyromancer, there's going to be no safe way for Space Station to back up, really find a bastion of safety to find that healing point. eUnited's on a tear, and that's exactly what their comp's meant to do. It's a spearheaded comp. They have 2 ways to dive the backline very safely. Immediately, we see Scream dives in, the second zone gets low, he picks out Cherryo. Hurriwind looks for the 1v1 in the long lane and nearly wins it against Boat. And that's what you have with this essential 2 assassin comp. I know that Morrigan's a mage. I'm going to call her an assassin because that's how you play her.
She plays like an assassin.
They're doing it well.
No, I'm right there with you, Miff. That is how Morrigan plays. I think you want to get value out of that base Morrigan kit first, and then you want your transformation to the other character. That's when you're really maximizing that value. Zeros used to play it that way a lot in Season 6. And maybe I'm kind of a Zero stan in that way. But I think that what we're seeing from Space Station Myth is that I don't think they're reading the state of the fights correctly, which is something they were actually really good at last year, was recognizing when they had those small advantages and when they could press them and when they needed to be on the back foot. They overstepped a bit in that last Gold Fury fight as Scream has his ultimate forced out.
They did. Space Station seemed like there's also a slight miscommunication on all of their engagements, especially around this Horus ultimate. They haven't utilized it very well. The best use we've seen so far is around that tier 2 tower to defend the purple buff at around 6 minutes. And since then, he's just really been floundering on this Horus.
Genetics has been locked down, but Terra doesn't seem to mind much, does she? Ends up making her way out of there A-OK after the Pyromancer ends up getting claimed too. And it does kind of make you wonder, you know, was this Horus pick something that Space Station really wanted, or did they feel like they had to take it from eUnited, right? Because of that great game that Genetics had on it back in their game 1 they played the other day. And I'm sure that this team has practiced plenty with it, and they wouldn't pick it if they were comfortable. But I wonder if maybe they took it a little bit sooner even than they would have liked to otherwise, or anything like that, because they were really worried about giving eUnited that strong comp they had before.
They had to take it when they did if they didn't want eUnited to have it, and I think that might have played into the strategy. We haven't seen iRaffer playing too much Horus. He's been playing Kuzenbo, other frontline heavy gods that just kind of sit in front of you and make it hard for you to move forward, whereas Horus is a lot more team fight focused, a lot more reliant on his squad. He needs to have that backup when he uses the ultimate. He needs someone to deal the damage off the back of his CC, and that's not exactly the style we've seen from iRaffer in Season 7. I like the strategy. Maybe eUnited show a very heavy focus on Horus in the earlier sets so that it makes other teams think that they are one-trick focused, because right now Genetics has been having a little bit of a quiet match, but by no means a bad one. He's finding the engagements. He's getting these value ultimates. He's performing very well.
Look at this grouping from SSG. Cherryo is alone in left, defending the Tier 1, but the rest of Space Station, really the entirety of the roster, is just grouped up in right. They take the Tier 1 tower as a 4-man unit, take a little bit of poke from Snoopy, but what's the next play? They've got to do something about Hurriwind. He's just pushing down mid, got the Tier 2 tower there. Meanwhile, Variety is still hanging out in left, can threaten there too. I don't quite understand this grouping from SSG, and eUnited have played around it well.
This is the classic SSG style. Well, we're really far behind. We need to get something. We can't take a fight trade, so we might as well trade towers. iRaffer, where are you going with this?
to right is where he's going, looking to see if they can lock down Snoopy, but I think Snoopy was aware of it. Those are the beads to avoid the knockup, and he's buying tons of time, gets hit by the tail whip. Aegis buys him a little bit more, but Dardez has the Spirit Ball. But now, after they've committed quite a bit onto Snoopy, what can the rest of Space Station do here to try and defeat? They throw Genetics back out of the Fields of Love. The CC chain is still there, but he drops his own ultimate, and maybe he can still reposition. Genetics is low, but they need a bit more damage to get him. They can't find him, and in fact, Variety gets Cherryo. Maybe some disconnect from SSG.
I like the Cupid ult. Plucking him out just separates the team fight. Vote, or Nika rather, able to pick up Genetics, and the fight's going to continue behind the tower. SSG changed the entire course of the game. Now they're on the front end. They get this tier 2 tower for free.
This has been big from SSG. They grabbed the tier 2 tower, but what's the next play? They grouped up as 4 over here, right? And they Horus ultimate in to try and pick apart this spread out eUnited offense. But I don't know, man. You get the value of the Cupid zoning, whether or not Genetics is in it, right? So I don't understand why you wouldn't do that same play, but after he takes the damage from it, right?
I mean, that is fair. That would be the most min-max possible, is find the pluck afterward. Maybe there was a slight miscommunication on timing. Sobek says, I have pluck. Vote says, hey, I got Fields of Love too. Both come out at the same time. Slightly unfortunate. Overall, it shouldn't change the course of the fight too much. Fields of Love really should only be hitting Genetics or sub 250 damage at this point. It would have got the pick. He did live with a sliver of health, so that is a slight misplay. But overall, I think SSG is incredibly happy with that. They closed the gold gap by about 1,500. Now they're not looking too poorly going forward. They can get the defensive positioning around the Fire Giant, get some wards online, so United aren't going to have quite as easy a time opening up that door. But still, they still have a huge hill to climb. 8,000 gold is the difference.
And I think that you're right to sort of highlight that Space Station manufactured that offense, didn't they? They had almost nothing going for them, and they make that play over in right, spread eUnited out across the map, and then use that Horus ultimate to pick off the straggler in Snoopy. So you're 100% correct, I think, to characterize that as a win for SSG, especially considering how the game was going up until that point. But now what do? It's a grouped-up fight here around the Oni Fury, and eUnited are fully present. I feel like they've got to have some kind of tracking on where Hurriwind is and what he chooses to transform into, because those have been great so far this game.
My focus for SSG is Snoopy. They know the beads and Aegis are down for a little bit longer.
Sure.
Hurriwind moves up a little bit too far, gets the beads burned down.
And the ultimate, too. He has to transform into that Terra because of the pressure he's under. Scream goes up to the sky and does realize that Nika's low, but not quite in execute threshold yet. So he falls back to the back of the fight, and that leaves Genetics and Hurriwind all isolated. And that starts with Raffer's pressure onto Hurry first to force out the beads. He had no way out. Now they can take the Oni Fury.
You call that Raffer's pressure onto Hurry. I'm going to call that Hurry's misplay. He immediately moved up towards the support and stunned him, did about 1/10 of his health, loses out on his Magi's proc, gets put out of position. The rest of eUnited have to move up, try and peel out for their Morrigan. Yeah, he did turn into Terra. He got the ultimate off, but immediately Space Station say, oh, bet you're in our front line? Let me just kill all of you. They get a clean 2-man pick. They get the gold free on the tail end of it. This has been a very swing-heavy game for Space Station, and now it's still a 5,000 gold differential, but it means a lot less right now. The XP is starting to even out. Both teams are starting to hit that late game phase. And now Fire Giant 50%.
This could potentially be risky, and United are not going to give it up for free, but they have Circle of Protection. There's no better confirmation than that. So SSG get the Fire Giant. Now they're going to get this kill in a variety as well as Dardez finds the Spirit Ball. Pluck gets the beads out from Scream, who has to keep right on running. And Mifflin, you said it earlier, they were a bit disjointed around their play from Raffer. Well, who has looked excellent in the last 3 fights for SSG? It's been Raffer.
Yeah, Raffer stepped up his game, and immediately Space Station says, oh, we're not going to lose? Let's not then. And they start turning these fights. Nika's been doing fantastic as well as a backline peel. Raffer's been running that front line. Nika's been sitting next to his carries, making sure they get out alive. And Cherryo finds the damage when it needs to. They don't really have any right winning any of the fights that they've been taking in these last 5 to 6 minutes, but instead it's been going their way, and now the game is completely even, except for the fact that SSG has Fire Giant.
It really is impressive, man, from these Space Station guys, because eUnited used this early aggression to get off to a great lead, and Space Station make a really different type of play over in right. I think that you said it yourself. They knew they weren't going to win any of those more fractured fights that eUnited were giving them before, so instead they try and group up as a death ball and find a fight that favors them. They get that pick onto Snoopy. They do lock down Genetics long enough to get the tier 2 tower. They come back over towards the Fury, and Hurriwind gets punished for the aggression that had worked so well all game long. And that finally sets up for SSG to start having some good fights around this To the Skies ultimate, around these two big circles from Dardez and Boat, and United struggled to answer it.
They are, but now they have to look at their defense. eUnited's defense isn't the best. They don't have a great way to keep these waves out. Hurriwind's going to have to play inside of his tower, which means that we're going to know exactly where he is, SSG that is, at all times. Morrigan's really at her best when she can play that assassin role, but they need her to be clearing waves. Snoopy's going to still play Ullr, very good on the defense. If anyone moves up too far, the Axe Stun can come out. Terra has this huge team fight potential, but eUnited has a defensive-based comp that takes their fight outside the Phoenix. They want to look for that cheeky engagement that we often see once they start grouping up around this Phoenix line and try and spearhead their way into the composition, especially considering SSG's Siege is very good. They have a huge sustain field in Isis Ultimate. They can take the elongated fight because they have all these heals coming out of their draft. It's going to have to be a very quick fight if eUnited want to win it.
Space Station have pushed up in left. They're sending Cherryo back to push up the wave in mid. That way they can pressure two Phoenixes at the same time and try and split up this defense from eUnited. Relics are available across the board. Scream is still 10 seconds from his beads, but they should be up by the time that he needs them with the way that eUnited are posturing. Looks like the Maga's proc just got taken from iRaffer, though. That's actually a pretty big deal that Genetics is able to step up and find that.
And it's very easy for them to burn these Magi's. They've got long-range CC. They've got the Ullr axe to be able to sneak it away. If Hurriwind finds a cheeky engage, which I doubt he will, seeing as how he engaged that last fight really swung the fight for Space Station, it's going to be very difficult going forward. If Set finds his way to your backline, you immediately have to turn, but his burst potential is so high that you're likely going to have to trade out at least one of your members on eUnited.
It's a full 5-man stack here in left in the lane, but they have minions starting to approach in the middle lane if they want to send Cherryo back over to push it. That's exactly the call. Cherryo heads back over to mid, pushes the wave up, and Scream is forced to hover in between to try and be ready. Even Nika's lurking too. I think they might want to pick if Scream ends up coming over here alone, but he doesn't step up too far forward, so they'll send Nika in to threaten the Phoenix. Scream, or rather Cherryo, is rejoining the squad back over in left, but they don't take the 4v3. Space Station playing patient.
I like the shift having Nika be the solo agent.
They're about
there.
to run an FG.
They know that Cherryo can't win the 1v1. Yeah, this has been a very stalemated FG. They can at least get this Gold Fury off of it and then look for that more even fight around the next Fire Giant. That's kind of the awkward dance you have when the gold deficit is so even, when the XP deficit is non-existent. You don't really have too much of an advantage on the Siege outside of your sustain, outside of that slight FG power. So you want to get a more confirmed win. You want to get these objectives that are free. Find this Gold Fury, spend your gold, get your potions, back up, buy some wards, get Fire Giant, try again later. They have plenty of time to work with. This is the best Space Station's felt in this set so far. No reason to push your advantage too hard.
That's great. I mean, you're exactly right. You have to remember the context of this game where eUnited had such a big lead. They were playing around some of these early game picks in the Thanatos, in the Ullr, and playing around them well. Good rotations out of variety early too, remember that. But Space Station are holding on. There's no need for them to pull the trigger too soon here, because this is the point of the game they've kind of been waiting on, right? When they've got all these great team fighting tools that eUnited struggle to get past, that make this composition, this dive plan from eUnited so much more difficult for them to pull off. So Space Station, step on the brakes, ease up, and they're going to take this fight around the FG, where hopefully their comp and slight gold lead can favor.
Dardez finally sold off his Mage's Blessing, elects to pick up the Spirit Robe, and that's smart. You have a sustain focus comp, you have a team fight focus comp, you might as well make it hard for you to get dove, especially considering there is a Thanatos, there is a Morrigan on the enemy team. That a passive is going to make it a lot harder for them to follow up on CC, make it harder for them to find those 1v1 picks. Dardez now a much safer player. He can move up, he can play aggressive on this Isis, look for these aggressive wing gusts instead of just looking for the Spirit Ball snipes. I like the pickup, and it's going to make it way harder in team fights for eUnited to get anything rolling.
Spacestation are the ones that pull the trigger after getting some good poke out of Genetics, but Hurriwind is in the back line, setting up for the execute from Scream. Vote gets the return kill, though. It's 1-for-1. Dardez will fall, too. Scream has found himself a double. Rapper uses the ultimate to reposition the squad, but Vote is about all they have left for damage, and he's very, very low. Variety sticks to him, pins him to the wall, and Snoopy gets the kill credit. Now it's just the frontliners left for SSG, and eUnited are on the hunt. This might have been the point in the game that Space Station wanted, but you still cannot let this Hurriwind Morrigan get to your backline.
Scream really said, guys, I'm sick of losing. We're going to stop now. And he does. He finds the double kill, immediately disengages, forces Space Station to move up a little bit too far. They get another pick off the back of it. Now there's going to be 20 seconds until Cherryo spawns. This could very well be the game.
Agreed, Mifflin. This really could be it. They're just going to ignore the Sobek at this point. He can't do enough all by himself. Mid-Phoenix down. Now the entirety of eUnited minus Hurriwind can start threatening the Titan, and Nika has got to find a way to stall long enough for Cherryo to get up. It's only 3 more seconds before this set is back, but the Titan's not being burned all that quickly. Scream is too low to come back in. Now Cherryo getting aggressive and pressuring out Genetics. They've done enough at this point to force eUnited out of their base.
Scream got a little bit overzealous with that ultimate. He could have got out with his life. Instead, tries to peel out for his squad, gets picked for it, doesn't even get the success. That's a 3-man fight in favor of SSG. Genetics now on the back end has to get chased out. SSG can immediately move in towards Fire Giant, maybe even go straight towards the mid-Phoenix and try and return that, then back up to Fire. What a contentious game. I really thought it was over there. Raffer, where are you going with it?
They're using the Horus ult just to move down mid as fast as possible, Mifflin. I don't think that they're content yet with just defense. They've got plans to try and find a big play here of their own. This mid-Phoenix at least is what they should get, but they've got a 5-on-2 for at least the next 20 seconds. They're not burning through the mid-Phoenix all that quickly, though, without any extra minions here to help burn and just reliant mostly on Vote's damage. But they are going to go to try and make their own counter, and they've got Circle of Protection. They've got the Fields of Love building up the big burst damage. Hurriwind gets the kill in the Cherryo, but the Titan's getting lower and lower, and Vote is still healthy. Hurriwind has gotten a double, but they have to control the Cupid in the back. Hurriwind gets the triple, but Dardez answers back. The Titan is low, but Dardez can't put any more damage on it, too.
Oh my God.
And attempts that get defended as Hurriwind gets the Quadra.
You have to be worried about that. You know Hurriwind's alive. You know he has ultimate. He's going to be able to stun you out in his own base and immediately transform into a team fighting base. God, this game back and forth. Now eUnited can go and finish up their end that they started earlier. They have 30 seconds to work with. It should be very free. That's a crazy ending to this game. Talk about back and forth.
And it all comes down to Hurriwind. I know Scream got the double kill on the Fire Giant play there, Myth, but it was Space Station that overstepped a bit. They overcommitted onto Genetics. It was Cherryo that pulled the trigger, and on the back line, Hurriwind came in and brought them down to execute threshold for Scream to find that big dunk. He got traded back out, and Scream kept that fight going, but Space Station lost their patience, I feel like, just a little bit on that Fire Giant fight.
If I'm in the SPL right now, I'm not trying to end a game when Hurriwind's alive. Ever. That's 2 sets in a row where he just says, no, we're not going to lose, and he doesn't. Twice, he just deflects multi-man invades onto his Minotaur easily. He turns that fight around. That Titan survived with, what, 500, 600 health? And immediately they end the game off the tail end of it. SSG, that was a nice attempt, but, man, Tyler's nuts.
Yeah, if you guys want to rewind back to around the 12-minute mark where I just out of nowhere stopped to talk about how good Hurriwind is, it's because he can make plays like this at any given moment, man. I'm a big Hurriwind stan, and he's proven it there. It's eUnited that get game 1. We'll let him break it down a bit further on the desk.
What a phenomenal ending. Hurriwind's pentakill stolen by Variety, but I'm sure he's not too upset with his solo laner. What an incredible finish to a really, really solid game. Aggro joined by Goremizer. I mean, Gore, it isn't just the fact that he gets the Quadra. It's the 4,000 IQ play to transform into the Isis immediately upon spawning, to drop a Circle of Protection on top of Dardez's Circle of Protection so that he can one-shot everybody. Hurriwind, Finch said it right there. The Fire Giant fight starts off because he finds the pick on the Dardez right away. I mean, this Morrigan for Hurriwind set up the entire game for eUnited.
Yesterday, I got to geek out a little bit about how great I think Morrigan can be, like in the right hands, because of all the options and possibilities that exist for her. And Hurriwind just kind of played that out for everybody, right? That is the perfect example. We even got to talk about it a little bit going into that game, but we didn't get to see it yesterday at the full level that I think Hurriwind just kind of displayed for it. It's knowing who to become, when to become them, and then outright just playing so well. I mean, being able to set them up for that much burst damage, turning it around, and much like Mifflin said, I don't want to siege a Titan if Hurriwind is around. I don't care what he's playing at this point, but especially not a Morrigan. A Quadra kill makes it look clean. I mean, that is the closest turnaround I think I've gotten to see out of a single player for anything. Just that Titan, if anybody is alive for even a second longer, is dead and SSG are winning, and we're talking instead about them and how unfortunately Hurriwind wasn't able to do anything. But he gets a Quadra kill, like you said, using that circle of protection so beautifully and placing it perfectly right there. It's only something you could do if you pre-planned it right out of the spawn.
So well played, and we're talking about one of the best Titan defenses of all time already, just Quadra killing the enemy on your Titan. Yes, he had some help from Variety and from Screammmmm, but so much of that work is done. I mean, it's nuts. He almost had it, man. Almost had the Penta, and then that goes down as one of the greatest moments in SMITE Pro League history with the Penta kill for sure. But man, let's talk overall, though, about how this game went for eUnited outside of just the ending. Because, Gore, they had a big lead. They had an 8K lead at one point. And it goes the wrong way. Spacestation catch up. They get Fire Giant. They start sieging. They're unable to get any Phoenixes. But are you concerned with what you saw, the fact that eUnited did lose that lead at any point?
It was a little shaky for them in some of those fights. SSG, again, when it shifted to being more kind of objective-oriented, their comp was kind of built around that control for like Gold Furies and Fire Giants and things like that. So I think it's more of a testament to eUnited coming back from some of those dips, because mid-game, like, granted, while SSG's composition as a whole maybe isn't going to be that controlling, I think when they put it together, they were playing it very well. So maybe you want some more clean transitions into like the mid-game for them, but for the most part, they were farming really well. They got to the point where they were controlling the fights very well. Screammmmm, I think, helped the team transition into the point where Hurriwind could then make the nuttiest defense I've gotten to see this year. I think it's something that eUnited can keep par for the course. They might want to pay a little more attention like in the drafting phase, but other than that, I think they handled it pretty well, I should say.
They definitely came in with a very clear game plan in this game. And it was centered around getting pressure in that duo lane. Snoopy plays Ullr for the first time since week number 1 and looks far better on it than he did when he played it in week number 1. Clearly some time has been put into that pick, and it pays off because that flexibility there, not necessarily needing to give that Ullr to Hurriwind in the mid lane, opens Hurry up to play the Morrigan and ultimately win eUnited the game because of it. I thought Variety's tier was impressive as well. The Awesome Jake full movement speed build does well for him. So we'll see what Spacestation's going to do. And ultimately, I think the big thing for me, though, Gore, despite all of those being strong takeaways, the fact that Genetics was a contributor on not Horus is a big step for this team.
That Terra actually was remarkable early on to help get eUnited on board, realistically.
Agreed.
And then throughout the game, there were times where I would even argue that if it was a Horus or if it was a Warrior, any kind of squishier target than a Terra, there's moments where maybe Genetics isn't able to get out alive in one case, or all of a sudden he's not able to have the same performance. So that Terra not only being a good showcase that Genetics has a little more than the Horus that we saw on Friday, but that he can control the game and the flow of a fight with it as well. I think the sustain that they had from it kept them alive in a lot of moments, not just Genetics, but the entire team. And so being able to kind of make those little micro plays with a Terra to then control the flow of a fight, just to allow your carries to then step up and do what they need to do. Between him and the tier, it was just really, really solid controlling of SSG.
And we were worried about the crowd control on SSG side of things, and rightfully so. Yeah. They had a lot of crowd control, but clearly eUnited's was nothing to wave a stick at. As we get into picks and bans here, same thing through the first 4 bans. Aphrodite, Yorm for eUnited, Yamoja, Thor for Spacestation. eUnited, I can't recall exactly what they banned in this slot. I know Spacestation banned Camazotz before the first pick came through, but I wonder if Spacestation is going to want to change it up with something like a Morrigan ban. Merlin was what eUnited banned in game number 1, so they stayed true to form there. Camazotz is what Spacestation went for. You like that here, or maybe Horus, or could be that Ullr, or even Morrigan?
Man, it's really difficult to argue against a Camazot's ban because of how potent he can be in the right hands. But, I mean, just thinking back to how much did well in that last game, there's definitely some things to target. They didn't prioritize the Horus for eUnited, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if they ignore it again here. I mean, it didn't do much in Raffer's hands either, so there's not really a reason for them to try to scoop it away from SSG. So I think they could very easily just maybe even run it back, grab an Ullr here. They have two players that are very comfortable with it, so it's still a flex pick and not necessarily showing their hand. But if they really want to go all in on Morrigan, we've seen that can kind of go hit or miss based on yesterday. They could potentially pick that up in these top three, although I liked where they had it last time. Their fourth pick overall, down there at the bottom, I believe eighth pick in the draft. Just somewhere where you know what they're going to be going up against, you know what you're going to be able to transform into, and you already have it. So kind of keep it for the late game. You run the risk of SSG banning it in the second phase, but it makes it, I think, better for everyone.
I mean, Ullr with a 53% pick rate, a 75% win rate. Usually gods that are picked as often as Ullr is don't win as much as he is. Sobek's a great example. 40% pick rate, only a 44% win rate. So I think there is some math behind this huge prioritization of this Norse Hunter. In Spacestation, they stick to their guns. They go Sobek Horus and lock in that front line just the same. I don't think that this is a problem, though, Gormizer. I agree that Raffer wasn't as effective on the Horus as I would have wanted, but I think giving him the run back here is very acceptable.
Oh, yeah. I can't count the amount of times that we've seen someone have just a rough game based on the way the early game started for them or anything like that, and then they go play it back, salty run back, whatever you want to call it, and the next game they just absolutely decimate you with it. So it's something to be said. He's still an incredibly big top pick. I want to see a transition in the ults, though, because some of them felt like they were just thrown out for the sake of throwing them out, as opposed to being able to find something potent in terms of repositioning the team or even trying to find the kill. A lot of the times it was like the most useful one in my memory was them just running down mid using it, where it's just, all right, let's just get everybody a little bit further on the map. Other than that, it just kind of felt like they were haphazardly thrown out.
Agreed. I think he had one good one to defend the purple buff, and then it was a long gap in between until he found that one in the mid lane that you're referencing. As eUnited stick to their guns as well. Exact same picks through the first five here, and it's Terra and Tyr. Again, the front line locks in. We talked about the CC chain being more potent for United than we probably gave them credit for, but Spacestation switch it up. Instead of this Cupid for Vote, they go with the Discordia for Dardez this time around. Still has a cripple in that ultimate, more single target, but a lot more consistent damage output. Do you like this switch up?
I do. I honestly think it's going to come into the fact that Discordia, like you said, a little bit more consistent damage output. And while you don't get the same control that Circle of Protection can give you around objectives, the way the apple is being thrown right now, you can snipe people with it, one, but also it can help control a fight. I think it just gives a little bit more damage to SSG, which is something they were missing last game, just in the passive as well. It allows them to maybe keep up with this Ullr and keep on par with potentially a Morrigan if it gets out of hand as well. Things like that to help keep eUnited a little bit less ahead, especially in the early game.
In what should surprise nobody, the Morrigan is banned away instantly by Spacestation in the second phase. And that's what I was going to say is that, yes, I like this Terra and this Tyr and how well they played together. But I think a big key was the Morrigan kind of holding this composition together, giving you a second Terra ultimate, using that Tyr Fearless a second time in the team fights. I don't know how well it works without that Morrigan pick.
It's that weird thing where if you're eUnited, you don't want to pick her up too early because then SSG can plan an entire draft, at least the last 3 picks they have, around a Morrigan. But you don't want to, you know, well, let it go into this instance where it gets banned out away from you because of how much was potent there. I mean, that defense doesn't happen if there's no Morrigan. A lot of the control they have in those team fights doesn't happen if there's no Morrigan, like you were saying. So having to transition away from that, this is actually where I think you go ahead and give Hurriwind the Ullr and let Snoopy play something else. Yes, he just had a really good game on it, but make that transition for him and give a little bit more control in that mid lane. If Ullr's already dominating, let Hurriwind have fun with it.
I like it. I think that does make some sense. Ho Yi is the pick here for Spacestation. That's going to be going over to Vote. Certainly a more aggressive god than Cupid when even or behind. Cupid can snowball lanes, but kind of needs to get a couple kills in order to make that happen. Ho Yi just has good boxing potential all the time. Doesn't matter basically if his ult is up or not. Is Giannis being hovered? That would absolutely be going in Hurriwind's hands, should that be the pick. And an Ullr being hovered as well. Ullr not going to worry too much about the Cupid, knowing that's banned away. The cripple from that golden apple is still very relevant, but there's a lot that Scream could pull here. Not only can you pull somebody off of that tier fearless, but you've got Horus 3 that you can gravity surge, you've got Ho Yi jump, and Discordia you can actually pull. You got to be quick. It's a small timing, but you can gravity surge that as Hurriwind does lock in his signature Giannis. And I guess if you're not going to get the Morrigan, you feed the hot hand, right? I mean, you give him one of his signature gods, even if he isn't the strongest right now.
And I think if you get him in the right hands and in the right position, Giannis can do a lot in terms of a mid lane. Is it going to be enough that everybody picks him up? No, and I don't think we're going to see him in that state for a little while. But I think you give it to someone who understands the control, like Hurriwind, who we've seen in the past do really well on this. And it just kind of feels right, if that makes sense. Like, it's really weird to describe it that way because there's nothing as numerical about it as it is that Hurriwind just understands the flow of the game as the god, recognizes the scenarios, has the practice, I guess, realistically, behind the Giannis to decide, should I fight here? Should I fall back here? When to use those portals? I think there's a lot of versatility in a Giannis, and once you have all of that and as much experience, especially competitively, under your belt, you can make the right decisions.
He's the best Giannis player in the world right now. I don't think there's any question about that. And then Susano here for Cherryo is key, though. This is the classic counter pick to the Giannis. Can throw the 3 on you as you're going through the portal, teleport with you. You got the Wind Siphon to pull him away from the wall. What do you think, Gormizer? We're going to a Game 3?
Man, if Cherryo has a really good game, this is going to Game 3. But otherwise, I just don't know if they have enough to strip away the control eUnited dictated last game.
And Scream on another early game pick. I thought he pushed the pace quite well on that Thanatos last time around. Ullr kind of feels the same way. We'll see if Hurriwind's Giannis is enough to get the job done and complete the sweep for eUnited.
Thanks, Aggro and Gore. What a game 1 that we just had. So how can you not be pumped for game number 2? It's still Finch and Mifflin here as we get into the actual action. Hurriwind will be on this Giannis Mifflin. I mean, he had a great game on the Morrigan, the game-saving play. So if my man was to play Giannis, I'm giving him Giannis.
You won't catch me defending Giannis very often, but he is the best Giannis in the world, as Aggro pointed out. It's a very comfortable pick for Hurriwind. I don't know if anyone remembers back in Season 4, he made some pretty mind-breaking jukes with that portal. It's a god that affords your team a ton of mobility as well, almost kind of like how Horus does. They can juke around the objectives very easily, they can move through the map.
Snoopy is being pressed here on the left-hand side, but looks like not too much more will come. But I think that's the right read for Giannis, man. When you play him as the facilitator, that's when he's really at his greatest strength. And another thing I think that's worth mentioning is that Hurriwind was out-farming Dardez last game in a situation where I would have thought probably that Dardez should have been ahead. I mean, it's not as if it was hugely favored to him, but certainly should have had the pressure in lane. Hurriwind on Giannis should be able to do even more so than that. No one moves around the map faster than Giannis will, so I think Hurriwind will see him start to farm ahead even more so this game.
He doesn't get his farm like most mages do by getting the pressure in lane and then rotating out. He's just able to clear out these back camps very easily. He can get around the map to farm out. It's going to be a little bit more of a selfish farm. We already see him splitting a little bit with Scream. That's how it's going to be. But having a Ullr in your jungle means that she's going to be looking for early ganks more often than not, instead of looking for that back camp farm, instead of looking for these neutral objectives, which is just going to open the door for Hurriwind to continually farm up, get himself to that late game. And around level 20, Unstable Vortex is consistent damage. You can just toss it out into a team fight on a very low cooldown. His high mobility is going to make him very hard to lock down, especially for Horus, who's a little bit more single-minded in his CC. It's just a straight-up dash and a knock-up. It's really on whether or not Cherryo can do, as Aggro pointed out, shut down this Giannis. He has a very interesting mechanic where if he drops a 3, that portal is very hard to get you out of any sort of situation.
I get it, Nika. You interrupted the Fearless, but now you might be without your best dash to get away from this gank. It's just not enough damage, though, so Nika does not end up in too much trouble as a result of that right-hand side gank, but I love the idea that he was looking for there with that one, Mifflin, with trying to find the interruption onto the tier, trying to see if maybe he could stop that gank, but just set up for the gank to come through. but they didn't have enough damage. We're coming out of the game, though. We're working on getting y'all back into the action here in just a moment. So, Myth, I think it's time that we could take a little bit to talk about the way that this set has gone here so far, man. I mean, it was really, really in favor of eUnited at first, but then Spacestation found a way to pull it back, and then eUnited were right back in control one more time. Largely at the back, a great play from Scream and Hurriwind. Do you think we're in store for something similar here this time?
eUnited's draft is a little bit less early game focused than it was last time. You don't have that global ultimate out of your jungler. You don't have these ways to apply just map pressure everywhere. But they do bring a lot of damage still. Willich can do a lot of the same. I think it's whether or not SSG can play as well from behind, or even if they do fall behind again. That's going to be really the defining factor. Not many teams are able to just close a 10k deficit by winning 3 fights in a row, getting Fire Giant, taking out your towers. I don't think that SSG is going to be looking to let it happen exactly as it did last match, and their draft says so as well. They have the early aggression out of the long lane. They have consistent damage out of their mid laner. SSG is not going to be as easy to invade this time around.
No, they aren't going to be, and that's what eUnited did really well. You're right, was they started with those purple buff and red buff invades, really the purple buff. And the Spacestation eventually did find some good responses. Remember the dunk in that iRaffer and Cherryo did with the Set and the Horus working together to counter that purple buff out. So Spacestation showed us time after time some good responses. But I mean, they were down, like you said, 10,000 gold, and they thought, better go on the offensive, and found that gank on the solo side. So really, I don't think I can ever count this Spacestation team out of a set, man. They just find ways to pull it back even when it looks like they don't have an option.
They certainly do. My eyes really are around this duo lane for SSG. Hu Yi and Horus has some of the highest kill potential possible. If Horus finds the stun and a knock-up, that's going to be a ton of CC, setting up for the double bounce from Hu Yi. Should be able to shut down just about anyone. Terra is very safe. She's not able to be knocked up when she has her items out, or abilities rather.
Good pre-beads from Snoopy, though. He recognized the offense going to be coming there from iRaffer. She does a good job to make sure he does not end up getting stunned. That was able to avoid that. That does mean those beads are going to be on cooldown next time, so the trade favorable for iRaffer and Vote over there in the long lane. Perhaps they can get aggressive onto Snoopy yet again and lock down that Ullr. But I wouldn't be surprised if we do see that the pace of this game is a little bit different. Like you mentioned, eUnited don't maybe necessarily have that exact same stranglehold they had on the map last time, though they do have some good rotational ability. Not having that Morrigan, not having that Thanatos does make things a little bit easier for Spacestation to move around.
It does. Already we're seeing a slight level discrepancy in the jungle, probably about half of a level in XP in favor of Cherryo, and that's off the back of Hurriwind splitting just about every camp with Scream. And Scream hasn't been looking for ganks just yet, so it's really on Hurriwind to start finding the pressure himself. He needs to start dealing some damage, get some rotations operating for eUnited if they want to really leverage the early aggression that Ullr does bring in that long lane. Right now, Cherryo's been able to just farm up safely. He hasn't really had to look for any ganks outside of that solo lane attempt, and he can continually just put out the pressure. The second he hits level 5, which he already has, he can start to pressure out the long lane. He could try and make use of the fact that Snoopy's beads are going to be down for about another minute. He could try and chase out this Yanis, try and force the ultimate there. Watch Cherryo in the coming minutes. I think that's where a lot of the aggression is going to be born out of for SSG.
Doesn't it feel like Snoopy kind of feels that same way, too? Because he elects to go the boots this time when I'm pretty sure he rushed the Transcendence last game. So trying to get a little bit of that extra safety here, perhaps, as the through space and time does come roaring through, but not a whole lot found on the back of that. But I like that they were looking for the opportunity. See, they can make a play. It just wasn't there this time as Cherryo is not done being aggressive yet. He's looking to loop around. I don't think Genetics knows. It's a bit of a bait. He puts up the wall to catch Cherryo out. Well played from Genetics, but they can't lock down the Susano. Remains slippery and elusive and gets on out of it.
But he does lose his bead, so now the early aggression will be stifled again. You can't rotate into that long lane without any sort of CC immunity because Terra is able to find those roots and those stuns so easily. Now he's really got to shift his focus over towards the short lane if he wants to get some early aggression, or continually try and damage out in the mid, especially considering through space and time is going to be down for a little while longer. That's one less escape path for Janice. Makes it a lot more single-minded, a lot easier for that gank from Cherryo to come to fruition. So far, no aggression from either team, and the gold deficit is about even, only 200 in favor of eUnited. But Vote still has a level lead. Genetics hasn't rotated out of this lane at all.
He hasn't. He's kind of been sticking around, trying to see if perhaps he can help out. But there really hasn't been much to find here on this left-hand side of the map so far. It's been well warded. We can keep seeing that. But here's an early rotation from Variety of all people, coming over to mid and finding those beads out from Dardez, catching the Discordia.
And now that's another easy gank potential for the jungler for eUnited. So far, this Ullr hasn't been able to find anything in the early, which is characteristic of her play. She needs to find that early aggression. Featherstep, it's a long-running joke I have with aggro. At level 6, Featherstep might as well be an execute for the damage that it does, and it's going to be incredibly easy to use against Dardez in particular. As long as that ultimate doesn't come through, you can avoid the damage from Strife, you can avoid also that unruly magic damage, and there's not much that Dardez can do if she uses her leap. That's gravity surge potential.
Genetics is stuck inside the Suns, and it's clearly too hot. Vote finds the damage, and Spacestation get on the board first with first blood. And this is different from the way that we saw the game going last time. It was eUnited with all this left side pressure, with Scream making tons of rotations, even Hurriwind rotating a lot too. This time it was just been a true 2v2 in lane, and Spacestation came out on top.
I can't fault eUnited there. I mean, Huyi and Horus is probably one of the best kill potential lanes in the game, just off the chain CC, the additional damage, sustained damage from the ultimate from Huyi. There's a lot that is afforded there. We saw that Genetics got caught out, no abilities out, which means that knockup's going to come out. The stun off the wall gets the double bounce. It's just a clean kill. They can't let that happen. If eUnited want to play even remotely aggressive, it has to be off the back of an engagement from Genetics. He has to move in with his own abilities. He can't let Spacestation move up in the aggressor position.
And remember, we did see eUnited make one gank attempt earlier. It was Scream made a gank attempt onto Nika over in there in solo lane. Nika used the charged prey to interrupt Variety during the Fearless, and Scream saw his opportunity. They just didn't have enough damage to bring that Sobek down in the early game. So there were some moments that eUnited were looking for. And think about how different things might already look if that had paid off. If they'd gotten that kill and they had blue buff control. Instead, eUnited now looking to try and get aggressive over near purple. The gravity surge will pull back in Raffer, but Raffer has a get out of jail free card. That does leave, though, Cherryo right in the thick of it, but he stands tall, finds one with some help from Vote, and they push two members out. Hurriwind will die from the explosion damage from Dardez, so it's a 2-for-1 in favor of SSG.
Snoopy pops his beads to jump out. He has that golden apple on him. Unfortunately for Hurriwind, he was where Snoopy lands. That's got to be a big feels bad, man, as it gets him killed. 2-for-1 in favor of SSG on their own purple buff. That's exactly how it went last game at this exact same time as well. United with a little bit of misguided aggression in the early game, and that was just a really well-responded counter rotation from SSG.
And I wonder if eUnited were feeling some of that same pressure that you mentioned, Mifflin, that they had to maybe start acting, that Hurriwind had been getting a lot of the farm, and that the best way for Scream to kind of keep up with that would be to find some ganks in the interim. But they didn't quite pan out over here in the Chaos side of the map on this duo side jungle. Instead, it was stuffed by Spacestation. A good answer back to continue their early game momentum, though. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Look at the gold. It's still very, very much even. Experience no big deficits there either, so this game is even for both teams.
Interesting to point out that the Ullr went for Ninja Tabby. He's going to take a little bit of hit in the burst potential.
But should be able to make up for it in terms of adding a little bit of extra damage from those autos. It is a bit surprising. Would you have rather seen the Warrior Tabi there in that spot, or do you think Ninja Tabi worked fine?
Ninja Tabi is decent, especially considering if she does go for the more auto-attack focused Ullr build. If we see an SCS come out, that stone-cutting sword, she's going to get the additional attack speed from her own ultimate. There are ways to leverage attack speed in a Willix's kit, but right now, taking a peek at the enemy team, you have so many guys that you're looking to burst. You're not looking to just continually auto-attack a Susano. You're not looking to continually auto-attack a Discordia. The really only great way to kill them is through burst potential. That's why, similarly, we see Cherryo going for a more burst-centric build with Brawler's Beat Stick, with Warrior's Tabi. There's a lot of power discrepancy there. There is a slight XP lead still in favor of Cherryo, just still around half a level. That's only due to the fact that Dardez really hasn't been splitting any of the farm coming out that way. I like what Scream's going for. Maybe he just didn't have quite enough gold. He wants to get the movement speed online a little bit more quickly, which means he's going to look for more ganks around this purple buff. They do have the timer, and it looks like United might just go ahead and move in towards it.
That's where they're at, grouped up on the left-hand side of the map, but what is the aggressive play they want to make? Spacestation can see all that is happening here on that ward. So Space Station defend their jungle quite well. Dardez is in position around the red buff. They take care of purple. The Oracles will go down for eUnited, but Space Station do want to get aggressive. That's the interrupt onto Scream, and he was looking for the leap off of Suku, and he never gets the chance. Dardez has too much damage at this point, and the CC chain too strong. SSG get yet another pick.
That's 2 full seconds of you're not allowed to play the game, Scream, and immediately we see that buff for Discordia come into fruition. That ultimate got there so quick. The cripple comes out, no play for Scream, gets picked instantly. They did get the Oracles though, that is a slight ward advantage.
Oh, this is aggression from Vote, though, as they start to feel himself with the way the game is going so far. But he bites off more than he can chew. I say that, but he knew he had the cavalry coming. The Horus ultimate means that Cherryo's in position to get Snoopy. Genetics now isolated as well as Rapper forced him back out. Cherryo's low on mana. Maybe Genetics thinks he can make something happen. But at this point, he's just a Terra left by himself. I love that confidence from Vote to trust that the help was coming.
The second he started falling low, I'm sure comms were like, guys, you're coming, right? And they were. They got there in time. They get the return kill. Cherryo has to burn his beads, but now Dardez sees some aggression in lane.
Takes quite a bit of poke, but does make it out of their AOK. The unruly magic off the mark with Scream. Doesn't look too much worse for the Weir after getting all of that poke. That was classic anime style, though, wasn't it? Rapper comes dashing in right when they needed him at the last moment. Vote never worried, knew the backup was going to be there all along, and eUnited starting to struggle here in the early game. But still, Space Station are not pulling that far ahead in gold. I think it's worth mentioning that that disparity still very much even.
Just about 400 gold in favor of Space Station, despite being up 4 kills, but that's not going to stop the aggression from eUnited. Variety, go ahead, blink into that tier 2 tower. That's well played. He forces that back. The speed buff's still available, and now this gank happens on Duo. See you later, Vote.
Yeah, Feather Step up and over the Ricochet, and I think the fight was over from Vote from that point, right? I mean, not really much more he can do in the 2v1 without that extra bit of help from the Ricochet, and Gold Fury is still up. This might be eUnited's moment to try and get a little bit of pressure of their own. They are going to pull the Fury. Rapper's here, so they certainly know that this is happening. The rest of Space Station, though, a bit zoned out. Variety trying to rejoin, but Nika keeps him out of it. Fury is low, and eUnited do secure it. In comes the Golden Apple of Discord, lands on the Snoopy, but he gets the leap off in time. Everyone going to disengage around these portals from Hurriwind, but Rapper keeps the fight going. Blink in into a 2-man knockup, and Snoopy gets stuck in a bad spot. Now there's trouble for Genetics as well as Nika gets the kill. So eUnited get the Fury, but Space Station get the 2 for 0.
Raffer's been playing so absolutely well. He starts the engagement, he backs up, finds the blink-in knockup on 2, and just facilitates the rest of SSG to get there in time to follow up. That's a clean double pick on a Snoopy, and it burned out his actives as well. No longer does Ullr have Aegis, so we can see some more continual aggression in that long lane. SSG might elect to start shifting their focus over towards that short lane because Gold Fury does fall. It means that Pyromancer is really the only easy-to-get neutral objective on the map. Going forward, I really imagine we see this Horus start to rotate out. We need to see some aggression shifted onto this Yanis. 0-1, but still maintaining a even XP deficit, despite Dardez having a 3-0 slash line. It's time to start slowing down some of that farm out of the space god. Is he the god of space? God of portals. There we go.
Portals and transitions, yeah, man. It's nuts, though, isn't it, that he is this even, if not slightly ahead of experience in front of Dardez? That's crazy, considering the 3-0 and 2 slash line there for him. I do think that we are starting to see where there's some additional Horus value. Normally, doesn't Giannis get everyone out of there scot-free? There's nothing to worry about, but only Horus can keep up with him in that way, with that to the skies ultimate to cut the distance and then get in for the 2-man knockup. I think we are starting to see that what narrow value that Giannis does have can be mitigated somewhat by this pick.
eUnited's doing such a good job farming the map. They're 2-7 is the slash line, but take a peek at the level deficits. Solo's a level up, jungle's even, mid's nearly a level up. It's all going eUnited's way because they're getting the objectives despite losing fights. Space Station need to win something evenly or at least force their own fight around an objective because they're not getting anything off of these engagements. They're just going in afterward and cleaning up once eUnited's already got what they want. It's almost like a bank heist. It doesn't matter if you catch the guy if they already deposited the money, right?
It would seem not, as eUnited are in a really comfortable spot. I mean, look at the totem of Q control. That's been 6-0 in favor of eUnited, right? Look at the Fury. That is 1-0 in favor of eUnited. You're certainly onto something when you speak about this objective control from the Order side team here so far. And I think that is a big part of what's kept them even despite this kill disparity, is that there has been these extra sources of farm they've been able to get off the neutral parts of the map here so far. But still, when you take a look at what is essentially an even game, maybe slightly in United's favor in gold, who does that have you favoring when you start to look at these drafts now moving into the mid-game when the laning phase breaks down a little bit?
It all depends on Horus and Yanis, who uses their mobility more aptly. If they can really maneuver around the map, eUnited could easily get the jump on any engagement, but the same could be said of Horus on the side of Spacestation. If they find the engagement, Spacestation that is, and engage onto this Yanis, it's going to be very hard for him to maneuver around the map, get the mage damage going online. Going forward, I like to see eUnited really group up around Scream, really group up around Snoopy, start to get those fights flowing through those two players. But if Spacestation decide to fight around the short side of the map, they should be favored simply because they have a level 17 Sobek over there who's seen 0 aggression.
Yeah, this Sobek from Nika has been farming well, but eUnited continue the trend of being objective focused. iRaffer takes to the skies and is lurking up in the air, is timing that landing well, and Spacestation actually get the Pyromancer away. That had to have been all iRaffer. Now he's taking a ton of damage, though he's in some trouble, so Cherryo comes in to try and split things up. Even with the through space in time, they don't have enough to kill iRaffer, but Cherryo may have gone too deep. He's low in the backline, but he makes it out, so it's the Lawbringer over the top from Variety. That cuts down the Susano to keep up the chase. Big Stripe comes out from Dardez, though, to keep things even, but a 1-for-0, and the Pyromancer actually going to Spacestation means that things still end up kind of even, maybe, I don't know.
It's about as even an engagement as you could hope for. eUnited find themselves the third kill of the game, which is nice, but it removes that neutral objective from the map, which means where are we going to look next for objectives? You could get ready for the gold 3 that's going to be spawning in the next 30 seconds. You could start looking towards SSG's tier 1 towers, all of them falling pretty low, especially that mid tower. If United decide to siege it, they have incredible siege potential. Genetics can invade, or engage rather, very easily, find the root on these high priority targets. It's going to be easy to close that gap to Dardez. If any sort of escape comes through, should be able to force out that beads with a Willix ultimate. There are ways to get involved. I imagine United are going to go ahead and ward up around this gold and try and force more fights around it. It's been working so far, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I couldn't imagine doing anything else on a Friday through Sunday, though, man. The SPL Season 7 has just been sick so far, and it continues to impress. eUnited continue to press onto the objectives. It's the Primal Fury that's down to half HP already. SSG don't have the iRaffer ultimate to engage with this time. eUnited grab the Primal Fury, and they're still looking to take the fight as well. Deep in the backline is Variety, but he stands taller than iRaffer, who melts underneath all the pressure. Scream gets the credit for the first kill, and I don't think eUnited are done. They used the ultimate to set up some pass on the left side, but they do disengage. They get their pick and their objective and leave scot-free.
eUnited are getting the better end of all of these engagements. Spacestation continually, despite having this kill lead, are on the back foot when they start. Every time iRaffer goes in, finds one-man CC, but eUnited has Variety in the backline zoning off 4, so iRaffer gets instantly blown up, tries to escape, gets the gravity surge, and still no one on the side of SSG is willing to go in because Gold Fury has already fallen. They need to start getting to these fights a little bit more quickly. Their rotations are being misused. If iRaffer instead decides to back up, use his ultimate, bring his entire team with them, the engagement could go way differently. They're not really utilizing the displacement tool that is Horus ultimate.
And Myth, I don't want to, it's so hard to know how much the roster change has affected this, but isn't this a much more active and confident eUnited? That's the word that I want to use. That game 1 with that Horus where they went 50 minutes up against Sanguine, that was a confident eUnited that trusted their game plan. This eUnited we've seen in this set is a confident eUnited that trusts their game plan. What about Hurriwind, though? Is he still feeling confident with Cherryo bearing down on him? He has to use the Aegis, but Cherryo has to use the Typhoon. Doesn't get much more out of it than that. Hurriwind drops his ultimate as well. But this does feel like a bit of a different eUnited to me, Myth.
It does. They seem like they're a lot more comfortable making their own plays, playing their own game. I know the conversation around Game 1 against Sanguine was a bit of a cheeky, cheesy win, right? They were conflicted versus, I think how I described it. But now it seems like United's willing to dig in deep, fight around every single objective, and they take them themselves. iRaffer, where are you going with it? I feel like I say it every time.
He may have been looking for FG, was worried they were making a cheeky Fire Giant play, but yeah, I think right up until the last minute, iRaffer thought there was a big Fire Giant play happening, but there truly wasn't. So instead, eUnited disengaged. They know that To the Skies is down. At least I say they know. Perhaps they saw it or heard it at some point during all that, but they have the advantage either way. Spacestation fully disengaging at this point. It's eUnited moving up to the Chaos side of the map. Variety has been a beast this game, unkillable in that backline. He continues the aggression. Genetics holds the aggro while Variety holds the attention. They don't get the tier 1 tower, so they start to fall back. It's now this Sobek that's looking to be the aggressor. They pull Genetics back in to the wood chipper that is the backline, but Hurriwind drops through space and time. They use the escape path well, and eUnited are out.
But they weren't quite able to take away that tower. Variety moves in very deep, forces out Dardez's ultimate, zones off enough, but they weren't quite able to find the objective.
Nika gets chunked by Hurriwind. That was the unstable vortex that really brought this Sobek down low. And look at the build. There's not a lot of dedicated magical protections for Nika yet. It's just the Warrior's Blessing and the little bit that's on high to the Urchin. He went Breastplate for his second item. So I think Hurriwind is going to continue to chunk Nika for a little bit.
And that's exactly how it's going to go. Hurriwind is going to be dealing constant damage to everyone. We see him playing very actively in these team fights. He's portaling in, and then he's just walking away. Cherryo hasn't been able to find that counter engage onto this Yanis, and Hurriwind's been allowed to essentially free cast. Yeah, United getting the objective. That's not even worth bringing up anymore. It's exactly what they do, right?
That's just what they're doing, and Space Station haven't really been able to contest aside from the one Pyromancer they snuck away earlier. So now it's two Furies on the side of eUnited on top of the Totem of Coup Control and yet another Pyromancer. Cherryo has continued to put pressure onto Hurriwind. I like the idea with the long-range ultimate from Dardez, but Hurriwind uses the ultimate and the portals well to escape. And now he's the one on the aggressive, trying to sneak up to where Cherryo is and try and grab the red buff. He's got eyes on this jungler. Cherryo can't stick around, and Hurriwind secures the red.
Going forward, my eyes are on Fire Giant. eUnited have been forcing every single fight so far. SSG come in too late, engage one at a time. It's been really disjointed fights from the SSG squad. I think iRaffer really hasn't even used his ultimate to move his team around. Yep, Fire Giant, exactly. eUnited doing an objective as they're known to do.
He has the ult.
There it is.
And this time I think iRaffer's right. Yeah, I think iRaffer's right this time to go in. Last time might have been incorrect, but they get there too late. eUnited burn the FG down quickly. So what about the fight on the backside? It's so fractured. There's 3 members of eUnited here, but not quite enough of Space Station to even up the numbers. Now there's all 5. Scream comes in, cleans up Cherryo, easy as you like, but the unruly magic from Dardez smacks Hurriwind, so it's a 1-for-1. They keep the action going as Genetics disengages, but they've left Snoopy all alone. Vote gets to him first and puts in the damage. It's a 2-for-1 in favor of SSG.
But Fire Giant does go the way of eUnited, now a 5,000 gold lead. Fire Giant on 3, and they're moving up with it. SSG's behind you guys, you gotta be careful.
SSG are wrapping around. Genetics doesn't have the escape path without Hurriwind here, but he does make it out of there A-OK. SSG instead just gonna head over towards the Fury. It's really the only objective up on the map they can try and take on the back of that fight. They came away with the kill advantage, as you mentioned, but not the objective advantage. As Variety gets the full reset, forces everybody off the objective all by himself. But they go back to it, repull the Oni Fury. They have it low. Variety zoned out, so he can't steal. SSG secure the Oni.
Variety's beads are forced out, but he's not willing to give up the fight. Uses the Lawbringer to jump back in there.
And has to get away from that golden apple from Dardez. That was a little bit too much. Variety finally acquiesces, but that just goes to show what a monster he is at this point in the game, man. Even with 3 members there, they couldn't do enough to Variety to shut him down there all by himself. So let's zoom out a little bit, Mifflin, and try and get this game state back under control. eUnited have the lead, 5k gold. They've got the FG on 3 members. It was a good fight from SSG, but eUnited should still be the aggressors.
They should be, but they have these Oni minion waves that they have to contend with coming down every single lane. Luckily for eUnited, that short lane is pushed up pretty far. They won't have to worry about anything more than losing maybe a tier 1 tower to that wave. If United decide to group up, push one of these towers down, I don't imagine SSG are going to give up on the tier 2s just yet. Their defense is pretty good. Unruly Magic and Strife are a great way to control people on the tower line. iRaffer's got fantastic engage. Vote's playing a guy that has a lot more defense potential with the ultimate out of Huyi with the ricochet to keep the waves out. Sobek, if anyone moves up too far, Puck can come through. They have a comp that's very comfortable sitting outside, or inside their towers rather, and fighting there, whereas last game, they really needed to play outside. They needed to look for the engagements more aggressively. Then again, taking a peek at eUnited's siege, it's a little bit weaker than it was last game. Hurriwind's damage isn't going to be quite as confirmable under these sieges. Scream's going to have a way harder time finding his way into the back line because Suku is a jump, but you got to save that for defensive positioning. Feather Step, your really only defensive measure inside the fight, can be shut down by some of the cripples coming out from SSG. You're really looking at variety to start these fights up for United.
And you know that he's in the back line first, getting things started. Takes a good bit of poke, though. So has to regroup with the team. Hurriwind's beads just came off cooldown. Aegis should be there shortly after, another 5 seconds. So the relics should all be there for both teams for these fights. But look at Nika. He has decided that he's just going to stick with variety. He's not going to let him sneak around, not going to let him go unchecked. He's going to stick to him like glue. That leaves his team in the 4v4 elsewhere. I say that, but Cherryo's not with this fight either. So the fight underneath the tier 2 should be favoring United, but Hurriwind is being hunted down. Nika goes to the lurk in the waters but can't find him. Gravity Surge pulls iRaffer back in and Scream melts him easily with a big time kill. He gets out of the Suns, but Nika's sneaking with Snoopy, trying to hunt down that Hunter in the backline. He can't quite do it all by himself, but eUnited are so low. This is a bad fight if they can't disengage.
Hurriwind, despite not being in this fight through space and time, does all of Votel. Scream goes in, gets shut down. Poor guy, but look at Cherryo. Hurriwind's been able to get involved despite not actually being in the fight.
Hurriwind still able to do a lot of work. Can't quite hit Cherryo. That's actually a great juke to get away from the unstable vortex. But now what about the autos? Hurriwind finds enough of them to get the kill into Cherryo. So they lost Scream, but it's a 3-for-1 favoring eUnited. They're starting to get healthier. They're starting to be ready to re-siege. They've got Terra for more sustain. So in come the autos from Snoopy to force down the tier 2. Nika and Boat are delaying them a bit, but they can't do enough. The tower in left comes down. That's another 1,500 gold. Meanwhile, Hurriwind threatens the tier 2 in mid. Can't get it all by himself, though, so eUnited have to fall back.
Fire Giant spawning in 30 seconds. That means Cherryo is going to spawn around the same time. United's going to have the great positioning advantage around it. They already have what is nearly a 10,000 gold lead. This squad's looking a lot more comfortable with genetics, and they're playing well. Space Station hasn't been performing exactly to the standard that the community has set for them, but that doesn't mean they're a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. They're just coming out ahead, United that is, on every single engagement. Despite having a slightly weaker team fight as well, we see every time Space Station group is 5, they usually come out ahead on the trades. United is just moving around the map, farming up these objectives so much better.
Now they're grouping up around the Fire Giant myth. 28 minutes and 45 seconds have passed in this context, and so far, United have looked like the stronger team for most of it, truly even going back to game 1, where they outplayed Space Station as well for most of that game. Now how can Space Station defend in what could potentially be a do-or-die fight around this FG? Relics available for most of the teams. The junglers still missing their blinks and their beads at this point, so they might not take their skirmishes just yet, but everyone else should be ready to fight here in Myth. Variety already in the backline.
Hurriwind has Magi's online, his beads and Aegis are still available. This is going to be the most slippery mage you'll ever did see. It's going to be incredibly hard. Cherryo was the only one that could really lock down this Yanis beforehand. Now that he has Magi's, it's on someone else to burn that off before really anyone could even think about aggressing onto him. Pyromancer goes down for free. United take that as a dub. And still, Space Station grouped up so far away from Fire. United have fantastic defenders positioning again. But instead, it looks like they're going to go ahead back up, finish up some of their builds, get all of that online, and take the most opportunistic fight around the Fire Giant that they can muster. That's exactly what they need. If I'm eUnited, I'm looking to shut down Dardez. If I'm Space Station, I'm looking to shut down Hurriwind. Which one's going to be easier to do? It's going to be shutting down Dardez. Hurriwind has Magi's, he's got mobility, he's got CC Immunity Ultimate, Beads and Aegis still available. It's not going to be easy to really stop him from casting his abilities if he wants to.
That Dardez from that Strife from Dardez, almost said Dardez from Strife, would have been a big deal if it connected, but missed. Variety still fighting in the backline, has 3 members looking back at him, so eUnited should be comfortable pulling the trigger back on FG, but even still they're stalling. Maybe they want to use their information to force SSG to try and come in blind. They don't know the current state of this FG, but Space Station aren't overreacting. They're not panicking. They saw Variety, got some poke on him, and stayed defensive as a squad. eUnited are not going to get SSG to overcommit easily.
This is exactly what I like to see from Variety. He knows that any poke that he gets is going to be hugely impactful in the Fire Giant fight leading up, whereas United have slight healing out of Terra, a little bit better than what Horus can offer. It's a little bit more for the team out of combat, so any poke that eUnited gets, they're going to be favored. Variety can trade his own health bar because he has Sustain in his own kit, which is going to keep Cherryo involved there. I like what's going on. Variety is almost acting as if the jungler would have normally for eUnited. Usually you see the 1v1s run the assassins. Instead, Variety thinks, well, no one's really going to be able to stop me from doing what I want. Might as well keep doing it.
And he's right. Now it's iRaffer trying to keep up with that front lining of Variety, and he can't do it. He falls first, and Snoopy gets the kill credit for it. Up into the air goes Variety. He has not been able to find the bricks all game, so why would he slow down now? Cuts Dardez down to size and continues to wreak havoc on the back line of SSG, and he's looking for more. It's Nika that's under siege, so Scream blinks in, changes targets, and takes care of both. It's just Nika and Cherryo left, and eUnited don't even need the FG. They're grouping up outside the Phoenix.
With 3 dead for 30 seconds minimal, this could be a siege attempt. Nika doesn't have great defense potential. There's nothing he can do without his ultimate. Cherryo is behind them. He also doesn't have his ultimate, so now he's just going to be late to the defense. This could be a Titan end. They have a wave.
A 2-0 for eUnited is potentially in the works. Gravity Surge brings Nika back in. Featherstep locks him down, and it's another kill. It's been so clean from the Ullr side team. That's a Dia side as well. SSG gonna have to take a seat as eUnited find the 2-0.
I keep pushing the narrative that I think, and I'll keep saying it, when we came into this season, SSG was my top-seeded team. You look at this roster, you got multi-world champions, you got plenty of rings over there. Every one of these guys are fantastic.
Hard to lift their hands.
Dismantled. Yeah, like, it's so much weight. What are you going to do with your hands? But eUnited, they don't care. Just smack them out of the way. And it's a lot of it has to do with Hurriwind's fantastic play. Both games today, he finds heroic saves. He finds huge damage despite getting focused, especially around that tier 2 fight in left. It doesn't matter. He's fighting these long-range snipes. He's getting involved in the backline. He gets this huge utility pickup in Magi's. After that, no one from the side of SSG even decides to look at him. This guy is unstoppable.
Yeah, Hurriwind definitely the MVP from that set, but eUnited, the whole squad, played really, really well. I think Variety and Scream had great moments. And what about Genetics, the new guy on the roster, certainly earning his keep here so far. An impressive 2-0 win for eUnited. So I'll get it back over to Aggro so we can break it down a bit more.
Thank you, Finch and Mifflin. An impressive performance by eUnited, and Hurriwind, I think, well-deserving of those shout-outs. And you think that Hurriwind's doing this in not a gamer chair? Are you kidding me, chat? If you want to be like Hurriwind, you gotta be getting in a gamer chair. And Maxonomic is the one that sponsors the SMITE Pro League. You can get $50 off using code SMITEMAX. I believe that's needforseat.com that you can go in order to capitalize on this great deal. Gormizer, what a set for eUnited. I mean, a 2-0 victory in 2 games where they had pretty big leads through the mid-game. What do you think stood out to you the most?
The thing that stood out to me the most throughout that game is even though SSG would seemingly win a fight, they might be able to walk away with like more kills, maybe more prominent kills, whether or not they go even. eUnited were walking away like with an 8K to 10K gold lead every single skirmish. Like, they never gave up that lead, which arguably was the one that was the most important. There were several times early on where it's like, man, Hurriwind was 0-2 going up against Dardez, who was 3-0 at the point, and Hurriwind still had a lead over him, or at worst was going even. It's the way eUnited farmed that stood out to me the most. It made it so easy to transition into those late game fights and made it so much cleaner for them. And at that point, it was just waiting to figure out how SSG are going to go around these team fights, figure out what they want to do, how they're going to accomplish it, and then pick apart their strategy from there.
I mean, the player damage for Spacestation was just higher across the board. Dardez put out the most of the game by a large margin. I thought Dardez had a phenomenal game on this Discordia. I thought iRaffer played much better on the Horus, but ultimately it's just not enough. Cherryo was effective on the Susano, but this Variety tier was absolutely a nightmare for Spacestation to deal with. They just didn't have an answer to killing this frontline.
And it was just so difficult because if you are able to deal with Variety, if you're able to control him, or if you at least, you know, turn your attention over there, it opened up so much more on the map for the team. I mean, there was even a point where Finch was saying, Variety has 3 pairs of eyes looking at him. If eUnited wanted to, they could have just started a Fire Giant, but they were still playing cautious. And I think that opened up even more avenues for them. There was just a lot of utility that came down from the team. Good knockups that you would see out of Screammmmm. Again, a stellar KDA coming down from him that game as well. And then Hurriwind, he was hitting very good damage out of his unstable vortex, finding a lot of connections on that. And even when he wasn't in that case, he would then find a nice portal like we saw in those highlights, where it's just being able to either set up the team with a through space and time, finding the avenues for new pathways, or if it was locking someone down to let his team come in and sweep up the kill.
Well, with that win, eUnited move up in the standings, and we might have the only traffic jam in America right now in the middle of these standings. It feels like everyone is just so close in this middle part. I think Radiance and Rival have set themselves apart. We'll see if Sanguine can do that in our next set coming up. But overall, I mean, you look at eUnited, Spacestation, PK, even Renegades in that conversation, all of those teams feel so close.
Yeah, honestly, and I said this when I was talking specifically about Knights and Renegades yesterday, but it kind of surprised me that going into yesterday they were both 1-3. I think Renegades, their score is a little misleading. I think they have a lot more to them than 1-4. I'm excited to see what they have going for them. But when you look at the way things are going, there's so far only been, one team that has consistently been beating everyone that they've gone up against, and it's Sanguine. And even then, you have to put an asterisk on it, only because they've lost a rival. They've had some shaky games, even there, a 3-game set against eUnited. So it's just like, man, the team that is potentially going to be #1 in the league is still having a rough time holding on to that spot. There is no clear frontrunner.
I mean, Rival's been on a tear since week 1, where they lose to eUnited. Since then, they're undefeated, so we'll see if they can continue that ride. I want to talk, though, to Genetics, the newest member of eUnited, and luckily for me and for you, chat, he's standing by with John Finch now.
Yeah, how could we not talk to this guy after the performance he's had these last 2 sets? Genetics, man, first things first, just how does it feel to be here playing at this level with this eUnited roster and to be doing pretty well, if I'm being honest?
Yeah, it feels insane because I'm surrounded by such a good team already. Hurriwind, Harry, Screammmmm, Snoopy. They're all carrying in individual ways. So it just feels good to be on a good team.
Well, you've been making a name for yourself in the SML for plenty of time now, so I'm glad you're getting to show what you can do here at this level. Talk to me a little bit more specifically about how this set went, because you all didn't really prioritize the Horus, even after that great Horus game you had on it. If anything, it felt like you were kind of forcing them to pick it up. Was that on purpose, maybe? Trying to kind of use that as a little bit of bait, or talk to me about how you guys were strategizing for this game.
Yeah, I mean, we just played the map objectively. Like, we got 3 objectives and we weren't really fighting. I know specifically, I think Hurry mentioned that he wasn't doing a lot of damage on Yanis early game. But it doesn't matter, right? If we're getting free fires and golds, we're going to play the map how we want to play it. And then, I don't know, I was expecting Horus to be banned, but it was open anyway.
Well, what about your role here on the team? Because when we talked to Hurry about it, he said he felt like they wanted a bit more of a consistent kind of shot calling presence, someone who is going to be a bit more active. Is that right? Is that what your role has been? What has your role been on the squad so far?
Yeah, I think I've been taking over pretty much like how we want to play each game, like looking at the comp, looking at the enemies, and kind of say like what sort of the map do you want to play around? Do you want to play for early, late game? Especially with the Horus as well, like calling the objectives and the goal frees, and I think just shot calling, just saying what you want to do as a team together.
Well, I can already see the difference that your voice has made here on this roster. Genetics, current support for eUnited, and doing a pretty darn good job of it. Appreciate you taking some time to talk with us, man. It'll be a quick break, then we'll be right back with that next set.